First of all, you're asking yourself, who's this guy in the mask? And why is this guy wearing the mask? Well, to prove a point about what the mainstream media in the West do to populations, people and countries and how they dehumanise them, I thought I would wear this mask. And I thought, just to illustrate that point, this might be a useful tool, because you're currently sitting thinking, who is this guy? Why am I feeling threatened? Well, actually, fact, it's just me, Ian, in Beijing. So I'm going to share with you a movie. Morning. So I had a whole video uploaded and ready to go live, as you can see, just shared with you. But I was uncomfortable with seeing myself wearing that terrorist mask on and off during the video. I actually bought the mask because I'd planned to go to a place called Harbin and see the Harbin Ice Festival. Planned to go that last year. Harbin's a city in the northeast of China, and they hold this amazing ice festival every year, but it gets super cold. I mean, like minus 40-degree cold. So the mask was to protect my skin against the freezing temperatures. But the mask is pretty scary when you see it raw like that, and when you see it on your own face, and your own face is associated with it. Even though I was trying to illustrate a point, in the end up, I was just uncomfortable with how it looked. So, yeah. Pouring of rain outside, so I couldn't get out this morning. But in the original video, which I'm still not sure whether I will publish it or not, I talked about how the mask was an illustration, a metaphor for how the Western media dehumanises people through their propaganda, the mask being the illustration of the propaganda, and how that constant drip, drip, drip of negative news or negative portrayal of countries, governments, of people and communities is often done to drive forward an agenda that benefits the few and never the many. And it's done always, in my mind, in service of continuing a war mindset that fuels some countries' economic growth, a belief in this continuous conflict around the world for money, and also in the hope that it can hold the status quo of the mythical world order, so to speak, where the Western governments, with nefarious links, try to hold back what is, in my view, inevitable. And that is that the world order, the world now has a number of different global superpowers, and they're all going to have to learn to share in how to get along. And that's the concern for me, because I do know that some countries, and by countries I mean governments backed by specific interests, they do not quite know how to share. They've never really learned that skill of sharing. It's just not in their DNA, so to speak. And history proves at that point of not sharing, time and time again, it proves that just through war and all the other conflicts that's been in the most modern history, it tells us that they're just not good at that sharing. Because, yes, what happens is we all get navigated into conflicts by manipulative governments, and the people that often pay the price in the conflicts, wars, are us, the common people on the street, you, me, your children, my children, families and friends. Our communities pay the price of the governments, while they, and I'm talking about politicians here, them and the like, they never face any consequences. And don't give me the whole, yeah, they get voted out, that's a consequence, they lose their political power because they've been voted. Nonsense. They get voted out of power, sure, but they ride off into new careers with pockets full of cash and never face any consequence, any backlash on the decisions and actions that they took that resulted in massive financial loss or mass casualties. And all I know is that if we, you or I, the person on the street, made decisions that caused that type of impact, we would face serious consequences. Anyway, back to the video with me in the mask. The video has about 15 minutes of everyday life in Beijing, and I point out that people in China have the same dreams aspirations and live a life very similar to what people have in the West, and that we are all more alike than we realise, even though we're being driven apart by nefarious media. In fact, I would argue that they often, in Asia and China and so on, they live a better life because they're living in a safe environment and can see the development of their country with their own eyes, because it's right there in front of them in physical form. Infrastructure, buildings, houses, roads, hospitals, transport, you name it, is there. They can see where the money has been spent. And if you don't believe me, then check out other videos on my channel or other people's videos about China and Asia for that matter, and you will see it's very easy to see that the investment has been there in China and so on. Now, one last point before I do share with you some of the video of everyday life here in China. When I talk about Western propaganda demonising Chinese people, I can debunk it because I'm here living in China and I can share with you. But the propaganda machine doesn't just go for China. It rugby tackles and beats up on so many other nations. In Beijing this week, we've seen a fantastic conference between China and the African nations that's resulted in many positive agreements. The city was buzzing with, I think it was 15 nations represented, and many heads of state were in town, and it was fantastic to see that friendship and commerce and community building, although the traffic was a nightmare at times, I've got to give it that. But the Western propaganda machine will paint the whole conference as something else, something negative. That's if they even mention it at all. And they will sell it to you as a negative as such. Well, you see your own personal situation dwindle and your communities come under stress from all sorts of things. It's all about deflection. That's what it is. Anyway, this is me, Ian, here in Beijing. Can't get out because it's pouring of rain this morning. I just want to live in a peaceful world, and I believe it can be done, but my gut tells me we will have to go through a huge amount of pain before we get there. And that's not a pleasant thought, to be honest, but please enjoy the beauty of everyday China and let that open your mind to peace and sharing this world. Kind of hippie. I think I'm an old hippie. Anyway, take care of yourself. Peace out. Catch you soon.
Today, the expenditure of billions of dollars every year on weapons acquired for the purpose of making sure we never need them is essential to the keeping of peace. But surely the acquisition of such idle stockpiles, which can only destroy and never create, is not the only, much less the most efficient, means of assuring peace. I speak of peace, therefore, as the necessary, rational end of rational men. I realize the pursuit of peace is not as dramatic as the pursuit of war, and frequently the words of the pursuers fall on deaf ears, but we have no more urgent task.
So high I'm hypnotized. What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through. Times don't fly too high. Be sure to keep the ground in sight. Fly forever if you keep it tight. Love the world but keep the sky on your mind.
那这里凉快点，咱们先停这里吧。Hello, sir.
Known as the First World War. 16 millions died and 21 million were wounded. At the height of the carnage, the Prime Minister of Great Britain, David Lloyd George, had a private chat with the editor of The Guardian, C.P. Scott. If people really knew the truth, said the Prime Minister, the war would be stopped tomorrow. But of course they don't know and can't know.